In this week's parashat Shelach, we have the terrible sin of the spies, the Heta Meraglim, where 10 spies speak Lashon Hara against Eretz Yisrael, against the land of Israel. And the parasha starts off, Vayishlach otam Moshe, and Moshe sent them out, like Hashem had commanded, and Anashim, Rashi, Bnei Yisrael, Hema, they were great men, they were Rashi, Bnei Yisrael, they were the leaders of the Jewish people. He sent out really important people, and the Torah lists all of them, and their job was to understand the borders of Israel, to scope it out, see the kind of land, see the inhabitants. Says the Torah a little bit later on, Vayishlach otam Moshe lator teretz Canaan. He sent them out to go and check out the land. Vayomer alehem alu ze b'negev aritem et tahar. Come up from the Negev, go up to the mountain, check out the borders. Aritem et haaretz mai. Check out what the land's all about. Ve'eta ama yoshev aleha chazaku harafeh me'atu imrav. Are the people who dwell there? Are they weak? Are they strong? Are there few? Are they many? Uma aretz asher yoshev ba tovahi imra'ah. Is it a good land? A difficult land? What's going on over there? Omer arim asher yoshev bahena b'mcharamim o b'mivsarim. Are they open? Are they fortified? What's the actual defense system like? Is it fat land? Is it rich soil? Is it poor soil? What's the wood like? And you're going to go and you're going to bring back the Pri Haaretz. You're going to bring back let us know what's going on with the seasons over there. How are the fruits over there? And they go, they check out the land. And they see it's a great land, but it's a scary land. And they see the great fruit, and they see the big anakim, the great giants that live there, and they get scared. Vayashivu otam davar. And they come back and they bring a report. And in the beginning, the report sounds kind of good. They speak about the beautiful perot, the beautiful fruit of Israel. But then it turns negative. Vayotziu dibat haaretz asher taru ota. And they spoke negative, bad, slanderous speech, lashon hara, dibah, against the land, and they said that we're not going to make it. It's Eretz Ochelet Yoshveiahi. We're tiny, we're weak, and the land is going to devour us. Now comes along the Megaleh Mukot on our parasha, and he makes a deep connection with this storyline over here, with this diba, with this slander, with the lashon hara, this motzi shem ra, this negative speech against the land of Israel. He relates to an earlier event of diba, of slander. But before that, we take a step back, because in the language of the Mekubalim, whenever they speak of the sin of the peh, whenever they speak of the sin of the lashon, what they call the brit lashon, the covenant with our mouth, not to speak lashon hara, and that our lips should not speak negative, they always connect the peh elyon, the upper mouth, to the lower mouth, the peh tachton down below, to the brit milah, the brit kodesh down below. So we have ourselves a brit on top, the brit of the lashon, and the brit down below, the brit milah, the bris, the brit milah ancient, and the word milah in modern Hebrew also means words today, but we have the peh elyon, the peh tachton. They always see a deep connection between erva, between sexual sins and sins of lashon hara. Lashon hara brings out this negative speech, and then sexual sins will bring out zerara, will bring out zera levatala, will bring out bad seed, bad negative things. They connect these two britot. That's a Kabbalistic thing. So based on that comes along the Megaleh Mukot, and he notes that throughout our story we have the word otam. That originally it says Moshe vayishlach otam. He sent them out. Otam meaning them. But he says you can read vayishlach otam. You can read the word otam as their ot, as a ot shelahem, their ot, their sign. Now in the Torah, the word ot corresponds to one of three things. There are three otot. There are three signs in the Torah that a Jew has. One ot is Shabbat, ot yilol me'ad. We have the tefillin, which is the ot al yadecha, and the final thing called an ot in the Torah is the brit milah. So the Megaleh Mukot now is going to go on the brit milah part. Says the Megaleh Mukot, vayishlach otam Moshe. What's otam? Al Sod Brit Kodesh. The ot, their ot, is the secret, it's the hint to the Brit Kodesh, to the Brit Milah. Now, who is the character in the Torah that is the most protective of the Brit Kodesh? Who is the person who will not give in to the advances of Potiphar's wife? He always keeps his Brit holy. It's Yosef Tzaddik Yesod Olam, the Yesod, the Tzaddik, the Yosef. Yosef is the person who protects the Brit Kodesh. He brings the Tikkun to the Brit. Yosef is the one that's always fighting against this immorality. The koach of Yosef is the koach of the Brit Kodesh. So says the Megaleh Mukot that our whole story is going to take us back to the whole story of Yosef and Yosef with his brothers. So he says the ita gabe Yosef, and we find this language of ot, of oto, of otam. We find it by Yosef. When the brothers wanted to kill Yosef, it says vayitnakelu oto lahamito, and they conspired to kill him. Vayitnakelu oto. They were coming after Oto, the person who represents the Brit. He represents the Ot Brit Kodesh, Yosef Tzaddik, the Tikkun HaBrit. They wanted to kill him. Says the Megaleh Mukot, taking us back to that sale of Yosef, taking us back to that brotherly hatred. He writes, Shaya lahem letaken. Really, the brothers should have made a tikkun. They should have fixed things. But why did the brothers hate Yosef so much? Before the story of the Ketonat Pasim, the special coat that Yosef got, before the dreams that made him so jealous and made him hate so much, the Pasuk tells us that even before that, Vayave Yosef et dibatam ra'a el avihim, that Yosef had brought bad reports to them. He had brought reports to their father about what he had thought. Actually, Chazal say that he misinterpreted, he was too young, he misinterpreted what they were doing, but he brought negative reports. Diba, this language of Diba is the same language as in our parasha, the Diba Ra'ah, the bad speech. Starting with Yosef speaking out about his brothers, we have an echo of the Diba in our story right now with the bad reports that the spies are bringing about Eretz Yisrael. So normally we start the story of the hatred of the brothers of Yosef with the brothers' mistake, but the Megillah Makot is taking us back to a critique that Chazal saw in Yosef when he brought his Diba, and now he's connecting that Diba to our Diba. Actually, the Megillah Makot notes a bit later on in his piece, he says that we know that Yosef had two tribes, Ephraim and Menashe. Yoshua, the spy from Ephraim, together with Caleb from Yehuda, they're the only two spies who don't speak out against the land of Israel. They're the only ones who don't do Lashon Hara. But we know Yosef had two tribes. He had two descendants. Menashe is also a tribe. And the head of the tribe in our parasha, Gadi ben Susi, he was one of the 10 tribes who sinned, one of the 10 leaders that sinned with the Lashon Hara. So he says, if you look at the Psukim, he says, very fascinating, by Yoshua, it says, Lemate Ephraim Hoshea bin Nun. Who was the head of Ephraim? Hoshea bin Nun. Okay. And then a couple of psukim later, it tells us who was the head of Menashe. And when it says the head of Menashe, Lemate Yosef, Lemate Menashe, Gadi ben Susi. So asks the Megillah Makot, how come by Menashe, which is the second one mentioned, why only there is Yosef's name added? Bring Yosef at the very beginning with Ephraim. Well, why only now? Oh, you know why? Because he's connecting the sin of Gadi, Shu asa ma'aseh aviv lo tzid diba. Because he had followed in his father's path. He did an act of improper speech of diba, just like his father had done. Okay, so going back to the earlier piece of the Megillah Makot, he says the brothers messed up because they were supposed to make a tikkun. Their younger brother Yosef had sinned with diba, he had sinned with the bad speech, but they made it worse. They should have fixed it. Okay, the brother spoke bad against me. We have to teach our brother. We have to make a tikkun. But they made it worse. And then they tried to kill him. They sell him into slavery. He writes, Vehem garmu v'ni'aru chet shel hotza'at diba. They basically stirred the pot. The ni'aru the chet, they stirred the sin, and they made the diba much, much worse. And then he links whoever speaks Lashon Hara to whoever is not Shomer the Brit. As it's hinted to, he says in the Pasuk, in Sefer Devarim, this is Perikaf Gimel Pasuk Yud, it says, Ki tetzeh machaneh al oivecha, when you're going to go out and they're going to fight the enemies, v'nishmarta mikol davara, and you're going to have to guard yourself from mikol davara. He says there's a remez in this Pasuk. V'nishmarta mikol davara. He says whoever is not shomer midavara, davar meaning dibur. He's letting a hint over here. It's not literally what it means, but he says v'nishmarta mikol davara. A person has to be shomer dibura. You have to hold yourself back from speaking negatively. But Chazal in the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, Daf Kaf Amud Aleph, it learns what is it literally talking about the pasuk that you have to be careful from davara. The Gemara learns it's talking about erva. It's talking about the sin of the Brit Kodesh. Again, the Megillah Makot says davara dibera. It's the Brit the Brit Kodesh, the Brit Lashon. He sees a connection between these two things. And then the sin goes on when the spies the spies come back when they return. So it says Vayashivu Otam, and they brought back a terrible report. But again, Vayashivu Otam, the language of the Otam, the Ot, again hinting to the Ot Brit Kodesh. They returned. They brought back the sin of the Diba, the sin of Lashon Hara, the sin of the Peh Elyon, the Peh Techton. And then here's the awesome part. He says, and this is all seen much earlier in the Torah. It was all foreshadowed to. Yosef was trying himself to maybe fix the future. He's not going to be successful, but he tries. He says, when the brothers, when they come back to Egypt, and when they came back to Egypt to get the food, and Yosef saw them, and they can't tell that it's Yosef. They think it's the second in command of Egypt. They came for the food. They came for the wheat, for the bread. And it says that at that moment, says the Megillah Makot, that Yosef had a prophecy. And he saw that in the future, the 10 brothers would come again and they would sin with Diba. Just like his original Diba, he says he was worried it's going to happen again in the future. So that's why he accuses them. He says, Meraglim atem. He tells them, you guys are a bunch of spies. Meaning, you guys are the shorish, you guys are the root of the sin of the spies in the future. He sees in the brothers, these 10 brothers standing in front of him, that in the future, there's going to be 10 more brothers, 10 heads of tribes. They're going to be Meraglim. So he's saying, you guys are Meraglim. We got to fix it now. We got to make the tikkun now. And he tells them, you know what you're doing? Ve'ervat ha'aretz batem lirot. You're coming to see the nakedness of the land. Again, the ervat ha'aretz, the Brit Kodesh, taking us back to the erva. You're coming to see the nakedness of the land. Now, what does that mean? Says the pasuk. He saw that you remember the dreams. He saw his brothers, and he tells them, you came to see the erva. Says Rashi, what does ervat ha'aretz? What's the nakedness of the land mean? Gilui haaretz, me'echan hinocha lekabesh. He says it's the openness of the land, the nakedness of the land. It's the places that are easily conquered. What's the weak spots? He says if they're using this language of nakedness to speak about the land itself, what were the Meraglim doing in our parasha? They were checking out the borders. They were checking how strong the people are. They were checking how to come in. He's saying, you guys are Meraglim who are looking to do Ervat Haaretz. We got to make the tikkun. But ultimately, it didn't happen. They didn't recognize Yosef. Yosef's going to have to go through a much bigger process with them in the past. And ultimately, we're going to have the sin of our parasha. We're going to have the sin of the Dibat Haaretz, the Brit HaLashon, connected to the Brit HaKodesh, and it's going to happen all over again. The tikkun never happened. Shabbat Shalom.